In honor of Black History Month, this is a Fox 54 News special presentation. Black History in the Valley, sponsored by Calhoun Community College.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Keneisha Deas.
And I'm Mo Carter, and welcome to our annual Black History in the Valley special.
That's right. You don't have to go far to learn about Black history.
From the historically Black colleges and universities in Huntsville to the famed studios and Muscle Shoals, Black history is here.
That's right, Mo. Well, this time last year, we reintroduced you to the Scottsboro Boys, 9 black boys whose case went to the Supreme Court and ultimately changed the laws of the land. It caught the attention of a viewer who already had an interest in the case. This story, full circle, will begin at a soul food diner in Decatur. Welcome.
All right, what you had today?
To this restaurant.
You want a wing to go with it?
Known for its soul food.
Minnie Lee's, can I help you? My mother started the restaurant in 1968. She was born in 1928, so she has saw a lot.
Minnie Lee's picture among many hung up on the walls of she and her daughter's establishment.
I like the art. I mean, it's nice. It's history.
The artist.
Miss Pamela, she did them. She's one of my customers.
My father was an artist, so he and my mother were very artistic people, so I guess that's what I inherited from them.
Pamela Farmer says she's been drawing since she was 10 years old. She's now 77.
I'd heard about Scottsboro Boys, but I had never known anything about it.
These group of boys would later become part of her body of work. It was her dad.
He and I were talking about it, and he said yes, that he had actually attended the trials.
Farmer's work extends beyond the walls of her home and a local restaurant. She sent them to schools, but now
I can't read anymore. And I never in my whole life ever dreamed that my sight would be this bad.
Even though her sight has failed her, she makes copies.
I want the children to know how things have come about to where we are today.
Not far from her home, Morgan County Archives was another stop, working with the director, John Allison.
I think the fact that we're openly discussing our common civil rights heritage and the legacy of both the positive and negative impacts of our local history it's been good to see.
History in all its forms, making an impact.
I carry on her legacy, so it means a lot.
Wherever you go. And Linda's mother is still living at 94 years young. And if you'd also like to learn more about the Scottsboro Boys, a museum dedicated in their honor has reopened after renovation in Scottsboro. For hours of operation, visit fox54.com. Over to you, Mo.
All right, now many of our stories this month feature black figures in the community making a difference. Our Sedona Meadows sitting down with one local activist from a prominent nonprofit who was told growing up she talked too much, and now that's her superpower.
My dad always told me if you see something that's not right, speak out. He did not include like when are the appropriate times to do that. So in my mind, if you see something that's not right, you speak out.
From an early age, Angela Curry has never shied away from using her voice.
Me as a child, always getting in trouble for talking and not being quiet and wanting to have the last word and asking all the why questions. I stumbled across Black history, just being a nerd, reading things in the library. I became enamored with books about Black people and just began to read all that I could find.
So with a love for learning and a job working in social service, Angela saw a chance to help.
And that really taught me that there was a segment of the population out here that nobody knew about. But they had stories, they had struggles, they had challenges, and then I had an opportunity to provide them a better way.
And just like that, an idea began to blossom into a movement. So, with other activists by her side, Angela founded the organization called United Women of Color.
I say I did not choose the movement, like the movement chose me. So like all of the experiences of my life have played into creating this. So when I'm not doing this, I feel like I'm missing out on something.
United Women of Color is a nonprofit organization with a mission to help set women of all ages on a guided path.
We developed a workshop, an interview workshop that's interactive. It shows people how to dress for interviews. It actually takes people through their resumes and pull out their marketable skills based on the top 25 interview questions.
The goal is to help set up women of color for success. At least that's how it began. But Angela found another way her growing organization could help. After the murder of George Floyd, United Women of Color shifted its focus and created the Citizens Coalition for Justice Reform.
We crafted the Citizens Coalition to be a neutral organization. I had about 36 conversations with individuals saying, if you could change anything about policing, what would it be? The people who I talked to were age 16 to age 83.
This Justice Reform Coalition is just one of several initiatives for United Women of Color, all thanks to growing numbers within the organization.
We are creating a pathway of opportunity for young people to come through, take over, however we can support, uplift what they're doing and working shoulder to shoulder. I say, come on, because we have a place and we welcome everyone who believes in our mission. We want you to participate.
Angela is using her voice just like her father said.
We're supposed to use the gifts that we have, not just for us.
Using her voice by encouraging others to use theirs.
So I just feel like I'm just living out all the things that have been taught to me.
Sedona Meadows, Fox 54 News.
All right, thank you so much, Sedona. Now, the only black high school in a nearby county may have closed decades ago, but it's steeped in history. We'll take you there next.
Black History in the Valley, sponsored by Calhoun Community College, continues.
And welcome back, everyone. Trinity was the only black high school in Limestone County before it closed in 1970. Our reporter Jasmine Bird takes us there to learn the history of what's said to be one of the most historic spots in all of Limestone County.
Behind me, you see the Athens Clinton Street Courthouse Annex, and long before this courthouse was built, it was Trinity School. Trinity was a school for the children of former slaves, and this behind me is where it all began.
The school was established right here in 1865, primarily through the efforts of a white woman, Miss Mary Fletcher Wells. Trinity Hall was built here in 1881 through 1882 as a joint effort by the American Missionary Society and local African Americans who handmade and laid the bricks for the building.
Now, the building burned in 1907, and it was rebuilt the following year on the old Civil War fort site west of town here in Athens, which is where we're headed next.
We made it to the old Civil War fort site where the Pincham Lincoln building is now located.
It is named Pincham and Lincoln, and both Eugene Pincham and Dr. C. Eric Lincoln were graduates of Trinity, and they wrote extensively about their time here at Trinity and all of the great teachers that they were taught up under.
Meet Athens Limestone Community Association members Carolyn Williams, Charlotte Fulton, Dr. Barbara Clemens, and Della Darby. ALCA is a board made up of Trinity High School graduates and other community leaders. Trinity, which closed in 1970, was the only black high school in Limestone County. The board works toward preserving the history and legacy of Trinity.
This is the school that was built here in 1908 when the school moved from the downtown location after the first school burned, the one that they had built.
Fulton says this spot had been a fort that the Union soldiers built.
And so it's probably the most historical spot in Limestone County.
And until the 1940s, there was no bus transportation to the black schools.
This was the black high school. So you had to have some kind of resources, either that or you had to be willing to walk.
While doing research, Fulton says they learned that in 1940, a student who lived in East Limestone walked 6 miles to school and 6 miles home.
He had several brothers and sisters, and as they walked to school, the white school bus would pass, and they would put the windows down and, jeer at them and throw things at them. And so sometimes when they got to school, they would have whatever the students had thrown on them. Sometimes it was rotten tomatoes. And he said there were times when he had to sit in the furnace room and dry off before he could go to class.
There is more history and many more stories where that came from, and ALCA hopes to put them on display.
This is our old band room, and it was great to save because it was intact and probably one of the last structures to be built on the site. We envision the Trinity History Center.
The deep roots and history of Trinity could continue on for days, but ALCA's mission is to continue telling the story and the history of Trinity because
we have great information that we want shared with our children and their children's children. We want the legacy to live on.
in the next couple of months, they'll be doing the engineering to lay out their blueprint to file for the museum grant. In Athens, Jasmine Bird, Fox 54 News.
Music is one of the few things that can transcend race, but the voices bringing that music to audiences over radio waves weren't people of color until recent history. You'll meet some of the voices speaking to the Black audience.
Black History in the Valley, sponsored by Calhoun Community College, continues.
Welcome back. Music is something that can bring us all together, but here in Huntsville, up until 1958, there wasn't a radio station for everyone here. Our Nixon Norman dives deeper on how local DJs and on-air personalities have changed both the culture and sound of the Tennessee Valley.
Back in the day, whether you lived here or were just passing through the valley, you were bound to hear some kind of tunes playing over the airwaves. But it wasn't until 1958 that the first Black-owned, Black-operated radio station planted its roots here in Huntsville, Alabama.
I was born in '58, and that's when WEUP started here in Huntsville. And of course, that's the station that I grew up with.
It became kind of community owned. The community took possession, so to speak, and that's how we've operated.
Not only was the radio station serving a variety of listeners, it was also recruiting a variety of talent.
Growing up in the area, I can remember as young as probably 6 hearing WEUP, so it's always been a goal. And when I decided I wanted to be in radio, to be a part of this station because it is representation of the community.
Other than a passion for radio, much of this talent had something in common, a connection between both WEUP and Alabama A&M University.
Many of the folks that work there went to school here.
That's where I actually fell in love with the radio and knew I wanted to do my internship here at WEUP. So A&M means the world to me.
And when the HBCU started their own journey via airwaves, the same went for those who tuned in.
Those that listened to them listen to us and vice versa.
But there were a few differences between the two stations. When the A&M radio station came onto the scene, their mission was to cater to a particular group of music lovers.
We didn't have any jazz stations, or any stations at least, totally playing just jazz. Dr. Hayward Handy, we like to call him the grandfather or the father of WJAB, wanted to bring that genre to the city.
WJAB was born just over 30 years ago, also planting its roots here in Huntsville. But its impact is felt far beyond northern Alabama.
It's unusual for a university to have a station that's 100,000 watts. That's a lot of power, a lot of power.
We have to realize there is a reach. Now in 91 when we started, that reach didn't extend past our 100,000 watt signal. But now we reach around the world 24/7.
And speaking of impact, both of these radio stations have made history here that will last a lifetime.
I think it's very important that history is kind to stations like us, that they look at us with some honor, because we're presenting to you a music that is not this week old. It's not the newest record. This music is centuries old. This music is of blood and tears and sweat.
Celebrating Black History Month, Nixon Norman, Fox 54 News.
A former engineer took a life-changing event to completely turn her life upside down, all in the name of a healthier lifestyle. You'll meet a famous chef next.
Black History in the Valley, sponsored by Calhoun Community College, continues.
And welcome back, everyone. This month, we are celebrating those in the community making an impact. And this next story comes with a little food. Here's Ken McCoy as he sat down with Chef Deas of The Veggie.
You know, I think it's important just to always keep learning and keep growing. Even if we've been doing something for 10 years or 20 years, there's something probably new that we could learn or something we could learn to do better.
Sometimes our best teacher is life.
I went vegan almost 8 years ago, and I experienced so many amazing benefits that I just became one of those people who was like, everybody should eat vegan. And so I was really trying to help improve the health of my friends and my family members and just everybody around me because of the benefits I was experiencing.
And sometimes those lessons aren't always pleasant.
Unfortunately, my mom passed kind of while I was in that process of trying to get her to eat better. And that was like a life catalyst for me. I was an engineer at Redstone Arsenal, but I didn't really love what I was doing every day.
Adair Mason is a chef and entrepreneur who took a painful experience and turned it into success with her restaurant, The Veggie.
Once my mom passed, I just felt like life is too short to sit here and do something I don't enjoy. And so I just decided to take the leap. I cashed out my 401k, I invested in myself, and started The Veggie first out of my home. And at first we were a meal prep and pop-up business. My name is Chef Adair Mason. I am owner and executive chef of The Veggie in Huntsville, Alabama. We are the city's only 100% vegan dine-in space. So we did like meal prep delivery around Huntsville and Madison. I would pop up at festivals and events, farmers markets, and the business just grew over the years. And then in 2021, we were able to move into our first brick and mortar space. And now we're expanding again into Madison.
So how did an engineer become the chef?
I've always been a foodie, always loved food, loved trying things, and my mom was one of those good old traditional Southern moms. She was like, you gotta get in here and learn how to cook. And so naturally when I went vegan, I was like, well, what am I gonna eat? And so I thought, well, I'll just start trying to transform the stuff that I grew up on, because that's the stuff I know how to cook. And so it just became this, practice of transforming like dishes that I really identified with, that I felt comfortable with, that felt like home. And then stuff that I wasn't seeing out at restaurants that I really wanted to still eat.
Chef Adair, like many women in business, had a hard time getting started.
Statistically, Black women get a fraction of the funding even that other entrepreneurs get. So a lot of times it feels like we're starting from behind. And so my advice to people would be to try your best to outwork your circumstances. Unfortunately, that is often the Black woman's story of having to grind and put in that hard work. but it does pay off. And when you put in that work and you're able to produce results, now instead of you having to seek out things like funding and opportunities, those things will start to come to you.
One key to her success is pivoting.
My key has been pivoting. And so you're right, there were times when I was doing meal prep and when I was first starting out, I may only have a few orders a week, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna pay bills? And so for me, it was about pivoting and always looking at what did I already know how to do? What was already selling well? What did people already want? And so I was able to turn that into different opportunities over the years while I was still building.
And what they want is her new location.
And we're really happy to inherit a space that was previously inhabited by another small business and just continuing that tradition here in this building. So we're gonna be giving it a little bit of a facelift, putting our touch on it, putting in some great seating for the customers and some great new options, expanded menu, expanded hours, just more of the things that people have come to love from us. So we're just super excited to be able to offer more of ourselves to the city.
At the Veggie, Kim McCoy, Fox 54 News.
Wow, what a trailblazer. The Veggie actually is an experience, Mo. I've tried a lot of her food, top tier. I frequent there a lot. It's good.
And look, I know you're a vegan, so I will definitely take your word on that. Maybe I've got to take the wife over there for a visit one time.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, everyone, I want to thank you for joining us on our Black History in the Valley special. I'm Mo Carter.
I'm Keneisha Deas.
And have a great night. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching Black History in the Valley, sponsored by Calhoun Community College.